On a Tuesday night in September 1974, inside a Las Vegas showroom, Elvis Presley stopped mid-concert and looked out at the crowd. He had been performing "You Gave Me a Mountain," a song about a man born in the desert, blamed for his mother's death, who raises a child alone after his wife walks out. He sang it with the kind of weight you only hear when a man isn't performing a song anymore, when he's inside it. And then he stopped. He looked out at the audience and he said, "This song has absolutely nothing to do with my ex-wife, Priscilla." Then he found her in the crowd. He had her stand up. He pointed at her. He said she was a beautiful girl. He said he knew what he was doing when he picked her. And then he sang the next line directly at her. The audience didn't know whether to laugh or go quiet. Most of them did both. That moment is on recording. It happened, and it is one of the strangest, most unguarded things Elvis Presley ever did in front of an audience. But to understand what it meant, you have to go back 2 years earlier, to a man who had just first heard a song and immediately understood that it was about him.
Marty Robbins wrote "You Gave Me a Mountain" during the 1960s. He wrote it about things that had happened in his own life. He was a country singer from Glendale, Arizona, and he had a gift for finding the small, specific details of pain and putting them into words that felt universal. The song is written in the first person. A man born in the heat of the desert. His mother dies giving birth to him. His father blames him for her death. He grows up carrying that weight. He falls in love, gets married, has a child, and then his wife leaves, and she takes their son with her. The last lines ask God directly, "This time, Lord, you gave me a mountain too high to climb." Frankie Laine recorded it first and turned it into a hit in 1968. Marty Robbins recorded his own version. It sits on an album and doesn't chart. The song passes from artist to artist, each one finding something different in it. In early 1972, it reached Elvis Presley. His marriage to Priscilla had been failing for years. She had been living at Graceland since she was 17 years old. She had built her entire life around his world. And then, quietly and without announcement, she had started to find a life outside of it. By 1972, Priscilla was already gone in every way that mattered. She was still technically his wife. The papers hadn't been signed, but the thing that had held them together was already finished. That same year, Elvis began recording for what would become the American Trilogy era. He was performing to sold-out arenas across the country. He was at the height of his concert power. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, someone handed him the sheet music for "You Gave Me a Mountain." He added it to his set immediately. No discussion, no gradual introduction. He just started performing it. His bassist, Jerry Schiff, said Elvis never told the band what to feel about a song. He didn't need to. You watched him during the first few bars and you understood. The song is about a man whose mother died the day he was born. Elvis, his twin brother Jesse, was born dead on the same day Elvis came into the world. His mother Gladys had carried both of them. His father Vernon had told him almost nothing about that day. By June of 1972, Priscilla had left Graceland with Lisa Marie. Elvis had first performed the song in February of that year. He had been singing it for 4 months before the reason became something he couldn't ignore. On January 14, 1973, Elvis performed at the Honolulu International Center Arena. The concert was broadcast live via satellite to 30 countries. Somewhere between 1 billion and 1.5 billion people watched. He performed "You Gave Me a Mountain" in the middle of the set. It was 11 months after the separation from Priscilla had begun in earnest. The divorce papers would be finalized in October of 1973. When he sang the song that night in Honolulu, he was still legally married to a woman who was no longer there. The Aloha version is the one most people know. His voice is controlled, powerful, precise. He's performing to the world, and he knows it. The audience in Honolulu gave him an ovation when the song ended. Somewhere beyond the satellite, 1 billion people heard a man ask God if this mountain was too high. They assumed it was theater. They weren't entirely wrong.
In September 1974, Elvis was performing at the Las Vegas Hilton. Priscilla was in the audience. Lisa Marie was with her. They came to his shows sometimes. They remained connected through their daughter and through the years they had shared. Elvis had spoken publicly about the divorce with something that could pass for grace. He said they were still friends. He said he wished her well. That night he reached the point in the set where You Gave Me a Mountain was scheduled. He began to sing it, and then he stopped. He told the audience that the song had absolutely nothing to do with his ex-wife Priscilla. He found her in the crowd and asked her to stand up. She did. He called her a beautiful girl. He said he knew what he was doing when he picked her. And then he looked at her and sang the next line of the song directly at her. The line is about a man who has spent his whole life climbing hills, about a man who finally found something good and then had it taken away. The audience went quiet, and then loud, and then quiet again. Nobody was sure if they had just witnessed something funny or something devastating. Both things were true simultaneously. Elvis understood that. That was the point. The moment exists on recording. You can hear it. You can hear his voice when he calls her beautiful. You can hear the exact second when he decides to stop pretending the song has nothing to do with anything real.
Elvis continued to perform You Gave Me a Mountain until the end. By 1977, his health was failing in ways that were visible to anyone who watched him. The jumpsuits that had once fit like a second skin no longer did. His voice still worked. That was one of the things that stayed. But everything else was slipping. In May 1977, he performed the song at Rapid City, South Dakota. That performance was recorded for the CBS television special Elvis in Concert, which would broadcast after his death. Fans who have compared every version across every year say the Rapid City performance is different from all the others. Not technically, not in terms of notes or control, but in something underneath the notes. One longtime fan who heard it wrote that Elvis sang it in 1977 as if he knew he couldn't climb any more mountains. He died on August 16, 1977.
That's the story of You Gave Me a Mountain, a song Marty Robbins wrote about his own life that found its way to a man in 1972 who didn't need to explain why it fit. He performed it hundreds of times. He stopped a concert to tell people it had nothing to do with Priscilla, and then he sang it at her. That recording exists. The song exists. The 5 years of performances exist. Everything Elvis Presley felt and would not say in an interview, he said from a stage inside a song somebody else had written. That's the Rapid City version. That's the one.